configuring routes in controllers. This one's going to be real quick. I'm just going to talk literally a couple of slides. We've seen so far, we talked earlier about the default mechanisms for dealing with routing requests based on the default route. So /API/controller goes, so employee goes to employee controller and so on, and optionally /ID. And obviously, that will take care of a lot of the requirements for a lot of services, certainly for the basic create, read, update, delete type scenarios. You might want to go further than that. So there are alternate ways of dealing with this, and one of those ways is to use in-code definitions of routing. I mean, you can also come into the routing table and define additional routes that have additional patterns if you wish, if there's a generic rule that you can set up. I actually prefer to do it in code. So there is an attribute that you can use called route prefix. And this is something you can apply at the controller level, and it will basically specify what is the prefix to get me to this controller. Now in this case, API employee to employee controller is exactly the same as the default routing rule anyway, so I'm not really gaining anything by doing that. But if I wanted to deviate from that default rule and specify some other path, then I could do it in this way. So route prefix allows you to have a specifically custom route prefix defined by the controller, and then there is also a route attribute that you can apply on individual operations within the controller to specify the specific route. So route prefix applies, and then after the prefix is /department/whatever. So I might be in employee controller here, and my prefix to the controller is /API/employee, but now I'm specifying for this operation, if it's then /department and an ID, then that gets me to this method. So this is my way of customizing and having additional things. And this is how I'm dealing with all of the alternate key stuff within the controllers that just got generated. You'll see this kind of stuff in there. The way this happens, by the way, is you'll notice that there is a correlation between the fact that I'm using this a department, and that's the name of the attribute. So those two things have to match. And that's obviously how the substitution happens. And you can have multiple of them. So department matches this parameter, and then within state matches that parameter, and so on. Pretty straightforward. So the demo really isn't a demo, it's already been done, because in the code that we generated, so here we're in employee controller, and you can see that, again, coming from the, sorry, that's the model. Controllers, employee controller, and you can see route prefix API employee. Well, okay, that's the same as the default anyway, but then again within here, route is nothing, so this is the default route essentially. This is the ID. Both of those are exactly the same as the default routing rule gives me, but then we go on into some additional operations, and you'll notice this method is called getAll. I just named it more appropriately. It could be called get with no parameters. This one is a get with a single parameter. This one is a get, but the path has to specify this route prefix now, or this route. But again, all that matters is the name of the method starts with the word get, post, put, delete, and then beyond that you can name them meaningfully, however you wish. So there's a get by department, there's a get by last name, there's a get by state, get by zip, and so on. Okay, so that's just to highlight how that happens. And again, there are code examples of doing that in the code that's already been generated.